Hi everyone, welcome to the Brainfuse training webinar for our HelpNow service. HelpNow is our academic tutoring service for both students and adults. So basically the point of today's webinar will be to go through all the different options that we see here on the main HelpNow page. Basically all the buttons that we see here on this page currently are geared towards students, and then we also have some options that are geared towards adult learners, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the webinar, but you access those options by clicking on the yellow Adult Learners button here at the top. We're going to start with the Expert Help section right here. You see a number of buttons within that section. We'll work through those, and then we'll work our way down the page through the Study and Collaborate sections as well. So the first two buttons here are Live Help and Skills Building. So these are essentially our foundational services that involve connecting with one of our live tutors. There is a difference between these two. The Live Help option on the left is usually used by a student who has a specific question they'd like to ask. So a homework question, or going over a test the student just got back to them, something like that. Whereas the skills building button on the right, that's usually used by a student who just has a general topic or a skill that they'd like to get some help with. So if we click on the Live Help button first, to connect with one of our live tutors, all you have to do is choose a grade level from the first drop-down menu, and then a subject. You'll see the higher grade levels, if we go up through 12th grade, will include a lot of higher level subjects, and a lower grade level like 3rd or 4th grade will just include basic math, reading, writing, science, the basic topics. So you choose the one you'd like. You can click on this checkbox right here if you'd like to connect with a Spanish-speaking tutor, and then you go ahead and click on the Get Live Help button to connect with a live tutor. We'll look at the live online classroom in just a few seconds. I just want to go back and quickly show you the skills building page. So this one will look pretty much exactly the same as the live help. So you click on skills building, then you'll just have to enter a grade level and a subject, just like we did before. So you'll see here we have enter grade, enter subject. We just have one more drop-down menu here where you can select a specific skill to work on. We have all the standard topics and skills listed here for each grade level and subject. If you can't find the one you're looking for, just go ahead and connect and then manually tell the tutor what it is you'd like to work on. And again, you can connect with a Spanish-speaking tutor here. This is the only part of our service, our live tutoring options, that have limited hours, and that will vary based on the hours set in the contract, but usually it's something like 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. If we go back to the home page, let's click on the Live Help button again, and we'll go ahead and connect for a live session now. So I just choose a grade level. Let's say I choose 9th grade and writing, and then I go ahead and click on the Get Live Help button. So this is our online classroom here that's opening up. You'll see the same online classroom no matter what subject you choose. So whether it's writing, math, science, any of those topics, you'll see the same online classroom that we're looking at right here. So there's basically two parts to our online classroom. We have the large whiteboard space up here, and then the instant message chat box down at the bottom. So I just click right down here and then type if I'd like to type something out in the chat box. So that's where most of the back and forth communication occurs. The large whiteboard space up here at the top is usually where a student will type out the question that they have, or it's where our tutor will load maybe one of our lessons or one of the other resources that our tutors have available to them. So if I had logged in for a skills building session, on one of those topics where I choose a specific subject that I'd like to get some help with, we have lessons created on all standard topics and subjects. So the tutor might load our lesson here right into the whiteboard space and then work through that with the student. Very often though, we just get students logging in who are stuck on a homework problem or something like that. So they might type that question out here on the board, and then the tutor could help them work towards that answer. So the way you put different things on the board is by using all these buttons that we see here. So if you put your mouse over each one, you'll get a brief description of what that button does. It works pretty similarly to a program like Microsoft Paint. So you just choose the button you'd like to work with, and you can put a number of different items onto the board. So that's freehand draw, the eraser, the T is for text. You can type anywhere on the board. You can change the font. You can change the color of the next thing you put on the board as well. Then we have a copy and paste option. So any text or images can be copied and pasted right onto the whiteboard. This is just a straight line tool that you can use to underline text or draw figures. We then have a number line and a graph option. So if you choose the number line, you can click and drag that onto the board. Let's say I change the color, and then I choose the graph option here, and I can click and drag that onto the board as well. And you can double click on either of these icons here, and it will let you change the X and Y values. We also have a basic shapes tool, so you can put lines onto a graph or some other basic shapes onto the board as well. I'm just going to change the color again here. So you can put some other shapes on the board here. This arrow here just means undo, so this will remove the most recent thing you put on the whiteboard. Our math button just gives you a long list of math symbols you can choose from if you need any of those on the board. SCI does the same thing for science symbols. Then we have a superscript and a subscript button. And down at the very bottom, you can clear the entire whiteboard. You'll notice we have an audio option here. This will always be deactivated when you're connected with our tutors. So all the communication will occur in the chat box or through the whiteboard here. We do have another feature later called Meet, which allows you to schedule online meetings with friends, with students, with tutors, with your own tutors, local tutors, not with our tutors. I'll go over that in more detail, but in those sessions you will be able to use audio. And again, I'll explain that later. Then up here at the top, we have a few additional buttons. So you can use the print option here. If you went over a problem that was especially helpful here on the whiteboard, you can print that out here and have a hard copy of it. You don't need to print that out though, because you will also have this View Past Sessions option over here on the right-hand side. So you can click on that right here, and your live tutoring sessions are automatically recorded and saved right here. So you can essentially rewatch a recording of your live tutoring sessions. Now this only works if you have a username and a password. So depending on exactly how your account is set up, students may have the option of logging in as a guest. So then they can quickly log in, connect with one of our tutors and ask a question. But if you use a guest account, you just don't have the same options over here, these learning account features. Nothing is saved when you use a guest account. So it's beneficial to have a username and password. When students do create the username and password with us, all they need to give us are the username and the password that they'd like to use. So it'll be anonymous. The student can sign up with any username and password they'd like, and they don't need to give us a name or an email address or anything like that. Back in the online classroom here, so that was the print option. Right next to that, we have a Send File button. So you can use this option to upload a document directly to the tutor that you're connected with. So you can send them a paper you're working on, and then the tutor can help you go over your paper, make some suggestions on how to improve that. Any document types can be sent back and forth. Then we have this button right here. This can be used by a guest user. If they log in, they have a really successful session with their tutor, and they want to be able to view that session recording. This is how they would do that. They can click right here to enter their email address, and that will send the session recording to their email. So you just click on this button right before you log out at the end. This can also be used by a registered user as well, and then they'll just have access to that session recording from their email without having to sign into their Brainfuse account here. So that's a useful feature for accessing session recordings. And then on the right here, our last option is called CloudPak Explorer. CloudPak, I'll go over that back on the website. You'll actually see right here we have the My CloudPak button. So CloudPak basically allows you to store different materials. If I click on it here, your CloudPak opens. You can add any folders you'd like here in your CloudPak, and then you can upload documents or even create documents directly here from CloudPak. So just click on Add. You can upload a file. So it'll work as a backup storage device in one capacity, but the nice thing about it is that any documents you have saved there in your CloudPak, you can then use the CloudPak Explorer right here to access those documents and upload them right onto our whiteboard. So it's another way you can share information with the tutor that you're connected with. So instead of sending the document to them or copying and pasting onto the whiteboard using this button right here, you can use the CloudPak button and that will let you upload a document right onto the whiteboard here. Okay, so those are the basic tools available here in our online classroom. I'll go ahead and close that window. And when I do that, you'll see this end of session survey pops up. So this will pop up for your students, and they can give any feedback they'd like to our tutors. Okay, so we're now back here on the main page again. We just looked at the live help and skill splitting buttons here. So now I'll just work my way down the page and go over the rest of the options that we have here. So our Writing Lab button is next. This is one of our most popular services. It basically allows a student to send in a piece of writing that they're working on and have one of our tutors review it and give them some feedback and suggestions on how they can improve that piece of writing. For the Writing Lab here, the student will be required to have a username and password. So when you click on the Writing Lab button, if the student is not already signed in, it would take them to a page that asks them either to sign in to their account or to create a new account if they're using the service for the first time. And as I mentioned before, again, all you need to create an account is to give us a username and password, and those can be whatever you'd like. So if I click on the Writing Lab button right here, I'm already signed in, so it takes me right to the Writing Lab page. So again, the Writing Lab lets a student send in a document to have one of our tutors review it. So to send in the document, you just follow the steps right here. So number one, you attach the file that you'd like to send in to us. So I'll just attach a sample that I have. Pretty much any standard document type can be sent in. They're all listed right here. So that attaches the file. You can add any comments you'd like to right here in the comments box. And then when you're ready to send in that file to us, just click on the Submit button right here. This message here pops up, which directs you to your message center and says you'll receive the response within 1 business day. So that's our turnaround time. That's the max turnaround time from when a student sends in their paper to when we'll send it back. But most of the time, even if a student sends in a paper, on Friday night or Saturday morning, the majority of the time they'll get it back within 1 day. We just say 1 business day to be safe. Here on the right is where you'll find the message center. So whenever you're signed in to that account that you created, you'll have your learning account features here on the right. So these sections are all specific to your own account. The message center right here will show the document that we just sent in, which is right here. And then when the tutor sends back their review, that will also show up right here on this page in the message center. I have right here a sample of what one of our reviews looks like. So we always send it back with our rubric form here on the top. The rubric has a number of sections here the tutor will fill out with comments specific to that student's paper. So there's a section here for overview, thesis, and a number of other sections. And then if you scroll further down, you'll find the actual paper that the student sent in to us, and the tutor will include comments embedded within the paper itself as well. So the comments here in the blue text are from our tutor. So that's the type of review that we give. We're not an editing service, so we're not trying to fix up the paper for the student. We're just trying to give them some suggestions on how they can go back, make changes, and improve their paper. So we're not trying to pick out all the typos or grammar errors, although we will point out recurring grammar errors. If there are typos, we'll mention that. But again, the goal is that the student will have to go back and make changes and updates on their own. So we're not doing the work for the student. So that's a reviewed paper. If we go back to the home page, next to the Writing Lab, we have what we call Send Question. This button works exactly the same way as the Writing Lab, except it's to send in a question rather than a piece of writing. So you just choose your grade level and subject, and then you can send in any questions that you have. Let's say it's a math question. Type it out here. You can still attach a document if you have one, but that's optional. And then click on Submit to send that question in to us. So again, we'll respond within 1 business day to that question that you sent in. That'll be saved in the Message Center, just like the document sent in through the Writing Lab. So for questions sent in here, we're never going to give out answers. So if a student sends in a math problem, we will either give them some hints or get them started, or most often we'll work through a similar problem to show the student how you do that type of question, and then the student can go back and work on their specific problem. So for any types of questions sent in here, we'll help guide the student, give them some tips on how to solve the problem or find the answer, but we're never going to give out the answer. So again, you'll need a username and password to use this service right here. Our next option is a language lab. So this basically allows a student to connect with a live Spanish tutor. Spanish is the only language we currently offer here. So you'll see it's the only option in the drop-down menu. So you can select Spanish, click on Get Live Help, and that will connect you with a live tutor who can help you with learning the Spanish language. We also have the option to connect with a Spanish-speaking tutor within our Live Help and Skills Building buttons. Those options are usually used by native speakers, so someone who wants to get help in math or in science from a Spanish-speaking tutor. The Language Lab is usually used by someone who's working on learning to speak Spanish. If we scroll down the page here, we get to the Study section, and our first option here is the Test Center. So basically the Test Center allows a student to take academic practice tests. You'll also need a username and password to access our Test Center, and that's so that your test results can be saved within your account. So here in the Test Center, on the left-hand side, you can just choose a general grade level, and then a subject, and you can take a practice test in that subject. On the right-hand side, we also offer ACT and SAT practice tests. So if, for example, I want to take an ACT math quiz, I can choose that. I click on Take a Test, and it takes me to this page, which is called your My Tests page. So you'll see here on the right, you have the section called My Tests. So this page is where all of your test results will be saved once you've taken them, as well as any tests you requested to take but have not yet taken. So right here is the ACT math quiz I just requested. I can click on the name of that quiz to open that up in a separate window, and I can work through that quiz. Again, once you've taken a quiz, the test results will be saved here. You can retake a test. There'll be a button available to retake each test. Of course, you can look through the test as well to see which answers or which questions you answered incorrectly and what the correct answers were. A lot of students like to take one of these practice tests, and then they'll log in with one of our live tutors and go over the questions they answered incorrectly. So our tutors are actually able to access the students' test results and then go over those questions they need some help on. Back on the main page, next to our Test Center button, we have what we call Flashbulb. And this is basically an online flashcard service. So if a student is working on memorizing vocabulary words and definitions, or any other terms, they can go here to Flashbulb to enter their terms and definitions, and then they'll be saved here, and the student can get a lot of help as far as memorization. So there are a lot of additional options here that you'll have that you would not have with traditional hard copies of flashcards. So most students will click on the Create Now button here on the left to enter their own cards, but you can also search through all the different topics we have listed over here, and essentially you can see sets of flashcards that others have created. Of course, these probably won't cover the exact words that you're looking to work on, and most of these are student created. So most students will use the Create Now button to enter their own cards. I'm going to click on a set of cards here that's already been created just to show you what it looks like. So this page right here shows one set of flashcards. So if you enter your own set, you'll see a page that looks just like this. And you can click on each of these different icons down here to just see the cards, to work through different games to help with memorization, take a quiz or a test to test your knowledge. You can print them out if you'd like hard copies of those cards. So there's a lot of options here that will help with memorization. If we go back to the home page, those were our two options in the study section. And then down at the bottom of the page, we have our Collaborate section. I'm going to start with Brainwave here on the right. This button says Create and Share Movie-like Notes and Ideas. So essentially in Brainwave, you are given a smartboard where you can type out or draw, put pictures on the board, anything like that, and whatever you're putting on the board is recorded in a nice little video that will be saved within your account. So to create Brainwaves, you will need a username and password so they can be recorded and saved within your account. So no Brainwaves have been created yet within this student's account, so I can click on the Create a New Brainwave button here, and I'll show you how this tool works. So this window here tells you a little bit more about Brainwave, and then I can go ahead and click on Begin Recording down here when I'm ready to start. So we saw the online classroom before. We call this the Brainwave Notepad. looks very similar to the online classroom that we saw before. But of course now we're not connected with a tutor. We're just using this to record. So I have all these same buttons that we saw previously. I can put different things on the board. For example, a graph here. And let's say I want to go through the steps to show how to solve a math problem that involves finding the slope of a line. So I can put a graph on the board. I can use the Tools button right here to add a line to the graph. And then I can start working on finding the slope of that line. So I could go through each of those steps. You can see I can, add points on the graph if I wanted to plot those. I can show the equation over here and each step. So it's a nice tool to have a little recording to show how to solve a multi-step math problem like this, how to balance a chemistry equation, or anything else you can think of for having a nice little video recording. You can use Brainwave here. You can also click down here at the bottom if you'd like to type out longer blocks of text. Those would also show up here. So once I'm finished, I click on Stop Recording. I type out a name. Just call it Slope Demo. And then I click on Save. So that will save that Brainwave right here on my Brainwaves page. I can always access this page by clicking on the Brainwaves button over here on the right-hand side. So I can click on the play button here or over here on the right to replay that recording I just created. The nice thing about this tool, though, is that you can actually send these recordings to other people. So you can click on the Share this Brainwave button right here to enter someone's email address, and you can send them a link that would allow them to view this recording. So these can even be created by a teacher or a tutor and sent to their students, or they can, of course, be created by a student and sent to a friend or a fellow student. We also have the Brainwave Library tab here you can click on. This lets you type in a keyword to search for brainwaves that have already been created. So type in a topic you're working on, and you can see if there are any brainwaves on that topic. Just like the flashcards, though, these are user-created for the most part. If we go back to the main page here, next to the Brainwave button that we just looked at, we have what we call Meet. So I actually mentioned Meet before when we connected for the live session. So the Meet tool here basically allows you to schedule an online meeting with whoever you'd like to invite to the session. It uses the same online classroom as the one that we saw previously, but you're not connecting with our tutors here in a Meet session. You're only connecting with the people that you invite. So a student could host one of these sessions with fellow students to host a study group, or again, even a teacher or a tutor could create one of these sessions to give some extra help to their students. So the way you schedule a Meet session is right here on this page. You type in the email addresses of the people you'd like to invite, then you put in the date and time for the session, a brief description, and then click on Send. So that will send an email invitation to everybody whose email address you entered. Each person you invite will be able to click on the link sent to them by email to join the session. So only the person creating the meeting here will need a Brainfuse username and password. The attendees will be able to just click on the link that's sent to them and join the session. A Meet session here uses the same online classroom as the one that we saw before. When you have a scheduled Meet session, you have the calendar option over here on the right. So this is where any scheduled Meet sessions would be saved. So right here is one that I scheduled earlier. So if I wanted to go ahead and start this session, I would just click on the Enter button right here. So again, this is our online classroom here that's opening up. You'll see it looks pretty much the same as the one that we saw before. I just opened it up here because I want to highlight the few differences that you'll have between a regular session with our tutors, like we saw before, and a Meet session here. So one of the main differences is that this might be a group of 5 or 6 or more students connected here in this session. So they will all show up here in the participants box. So it's not necessarily just 2 people. You can invite any number of people. The audio option down here will be activated in a Meet session. So assuming everyone has audio capabilities on their computer, they'd be able to speak back and forth to each other. And of course, everyone connected in the session would also be able to see anything put on the whiteboard and anything typed in the chat box. And then one other difference is if this session is being run by a tutor or a teacher, someone who's giving help to the other people in the session, there's an option to click on each participant's name here and give them a private whiteboard. So what that'll do is create a separate tab up here next to our public tab just for that student, and then you can give extra help to that student on their own whiteboard. So the only people who would be able to see a private whiteboard are the student for whom you created one and the moderator of the session, so the person who created the session here. So if it's a tutor helping out 2 students here, they could create a private tab for each of their 2 students, and then anything on that board is visible only to the tutor and that one student, which is different from the public tab here, which is visible by everyone in the session. So it's a great tool for teaching. Okay, so that's how a Meet session works. Go ahead and close that window. Back on the home page here, those are basically all the main buttons available here on our Help Now page. Over here on the right, the My Account button we haven't looked at. That'll just show you your username and password in case you need to access that. View past sessions, Message Center, My Tests, Calendar, Brainwaves. We looked at all those. Cloud Pack I mentioned briefly before, so that's the storage device. You can upload any documents here into your Cloud Pack and then access those in a live session. So what I want to do now is move on to the Adult Learning Center, which is accessed by the Adult Learners button up here at the top of the page. So if I click on that option, this is where any adult learners would go to get help. So anyone who is going back to school and taking classes, preparing to take any sorts of tests or certification exams, they can go here to get the help that they need. So on the right-hand side of this page, where it says Lifelong Learning, we basically have 5 of the exact same services that we just looked at. They're just geared towards adults here in the Adult Learning Center. So we have live tutoring and skill splitting, where adult learners can connect with our live tutors to get academic help. We have the Writing Lab, where they can send in a piece of writing. We have the Test Center, where they can take academic practice tests, and the 24/7 help option, where they can send in a question any time of day, and we'll respond within 1 business day. So those all work the same way as the services that we've already seen back on the main page. Over here on the left, we have some additional resources for adult learners. The first one here is Pass the GED. So for anyone who is preparing to take this test, we have some resources here. So we have study materials, and we have live tutors available under number 2 here. So you can choose one of the 5 sections of the GED test, connect with a live tutor, and get whatever help you need preparing for that section. And then on the right, you can also take practice tests to help you prepare for the GED. If we go back to the main Adult Learning Center page here, our next button is Prepare for the U.S. Citizenship Test. So we have the same options here as we did for the GED. So we have study materials, live tutors, and then practice tests on the right-hand side. Below the U.S. Citizenship Test button, we have Write a Winning Resume. So if you happen to have any adults who are looking for a job and working on their resume, we have an option to help them here. Within our resume button, we have some online resources to help you with creating a resume. Then we have an Upload Resume button here that will allow you to send in your resume to us and have one of our tutors review it. So this works just like the Writing Lab that we saw previously. If I click on this button here, you'll see we call this the Resume Lab. So it works exactly the same way. You just attach your file here, send it in, and one of our tutors will provide some help with both the format of your resume and the content, and send that back within 1 business day. And we're also happy to help with cover letters, as it says here. So you can definitely send those in as well as resumes. If we go back, next to the Upload Resume button that we just saw, we also have a Live Resume Help option. So here you can connect with a live tutor and either go over your resume in real time or ask any specific questions that you might have. Below the Resume button, here on the Adult Learning Center page, our next option is Microsoft Office Help. So we offer help here with Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint up to the most recent versions of those programs. So here on the left, we have online resources, which include some free tutorials on these 3 programs. And then on the right, you can connect with a live tutor to ask any questions you have about Excel, PowerPoint, or Word. And then the last option here in the Adult Learning Center is for career resources. So this sort of goes along with the Write a Winning Resume button. Basically here, we'll have lists of websites that can be used to find available jobs to apply to. So we have a general job sites section. Further down the page, we have job sites for students and recent graduates. And then down at the bottom, we also have job sites for veterans. Okay, so those are all the options available here in the Adult Learning Center. You can click on the Home button right here, and that'll take us back to the main Help Now page here where we started. So those are basically all the options that you'll have within the Brainfuse Help Now service. So if you have any additional questions now or as you start using the service, you can feel free to contact us anytime. The best way to contact us is using the email address info@brainfuse.com, or you can also use the Contact Us button that we have available right here. So thanks to everyone for watching today. I hope it was helpful, and have a great day.